Welcome back to Homeschooling Mama. Let's talk about teaching math, counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, just the basic intro learning things that you can do to help to teach, starting with the little bitties, right? All the way up to even your big kids, okay? I'm going to tell you something that I use and I learned, and it's really simple, and you're probably doing it already, but you may not know that you can use it with different types of math as well. So when your kids are little, right, you're playing with them and you're doing, this little piggy went to the market, this little piggy stayed home. And then eventually you start teaching them how to count their fingers, count their toes. Whenever you're doing stuff, you're counting. If you're gonna clean up, we're gonna clean up. Okay, ready? How many toys can we pick up in 10 seconds, right? And you start counting. 1, 2, 3. Well, we're teaching our babies to count, right? They're learning how to count. One thing that I always used with my children, as well as with other people's children, um, is I use different objects, different tools. So we might use macaroni. We might use macaroni noodles or like beans, rocks, crayons, different little things like that. Shells. I always have containers. I actually have some downstairs I could show you where we have little marbles in it. Things that we use to for counting or for math. And I also use candy sometimes. I'll use like the little pixie sticks with the little powder in it, or any other kind of candy, whatever I have on hand. We've used Laffy Taffies, we've used Jolly Ranchers, but I use a lot of props like that to help to teach how to count, how to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and fractions, right? I use those. And so basically, if you teach them how to count using those at first, but once they've moved and graduated from learning how to count and you want to teach them addition, you teach them the same thing. 1 plus 2. Put one candy there, you add two more, let's add them together, how many you have, right? Or I might have some candies lined up here, and I might have some beans lined up here or candies lined up here. And then I may have them count, and I'm teaching them how to add. You're probably doing that already, right? Do the same thing with subtractions, right? We got 5 beans here, but if I want to take away 2, let's take away 2, or you can even play with it, right? Oh, I'm going to eat 2. And then they laugh and they think it's so cute, right? When they're real little. How many beans are left? 3, and then you count it with them. 1, 2, 3, 3. And then you clap and yay, all that good stuff, all that reinforcement. They love that when they're little, and it really helps them to get engaged and helps them to learn. So we do the same thing, right? We went over counting, addition, subtraction. Same thing with multiplication, right? When we're doing multiplication, I use those same tools the same way to teach multiplication. As they get older, for like multiplication, for division. A lot of division we use inside and addition when we're cooking, and fractions is a lot of what we do. So I have 5 kids, right? So a lot of times it's real easy for them to teach them division because, well, there's 5 of us. So we got this one candy bar. How many bars, how many little blocks are in the bars? Well, how many bars did each kid get? So that helps my children a lot to learn about division because there's 5 of them and they want to know how much they're going to get. With the multiplication, it'll come back to me. I'll tell you in a minute, okay? So that's one thing that we always do with the fractions and with the division. That helps a lot in the kitchen. But we do the same thing with the candy. Mm. Some good hot chocolate. With the candy, it's the same thing, or with the noodles or with cookies or whatever it is that you have. We do the same thing with multiplication. How many kids are there? There's this many kids. Well, if we're going to give each kid 2 cookies, how many cookies are we going to need all together? And so that helps me to teach them with multiplication as well. But I use props like that on every level. So my 10-year-old, even right now, when I first started introducing her, um, not really first started, she gets fractions because she loves to cook, she loves to bake, so she get it in that way. But trying to really sit down with her and have her look at a fraction and do math like that, I started using candy bars, cookies, things like that that we could break up because I have her attention. I mean, she's captivated because she's hoping at the end of this she'll get a cookie, right? So I use those props to help her to explain to her and use as examples. And while she's doing her homework, she gets to use some of those props to help her to visualize and see what the math is and how it works and how to apply it to everyday life. And when they do good, at the end, they do get a little piece of something, right? And then what happens is the older kids might, have already done it, and I'm working with my 10-year-old on it now. But when it's her turn to do it, then everybody wants to come over and be a part of it. I also use that for science. In science, certain parts of science, not all of the sciences, but you start dealing with math. And when you start doing scientific projects and experiments and coming up with your theories and things like that, I use a lot of props in it. Typically, it is candy or food props because it works well with my kids. So when we were learning about Venn diagrams, I know this doesn't have anything to do with math, but comparing and contrasting, um, we used a lot of pies, cakes, cookies, things like that, because it really got their attention into it. And so I would let them, okay, we're going to do a Venn diagram. Here's this chocolate cookie that's dipped in vanilla. Here's a vanilla cookie that's a sandwich cookie, right? So let's taste both cookies and let's compare and contrast. So you really can get your children's attention with the type of um, products, not products, but props that you use to help you to teach it. So when you're thinking about doing math and introducing a new subject, sometimes it's a good idea to try using things like that, because just because we get older doesn't mean that those same techniques that worked for us when we were 5 and 6 doesn't work anymore. They actually still do. We are still the same people. Even though we're grown, there is a child inside of everybody, and you'll be amazed when you use props that are things that people want, things that people like, will really get their attention. I mean, if you're an adult and you're having a meeting, I've done this a lot where I, having meeting with grown folks, and I'm teaching a class, and I have a goodie bag right there, and when I ask questions, if you can get it right, I'll let you get some candy. You get people's attention, they start paying attention, and they start learning quick because they want whatever's in that bag. It doesn't matter how old they are. It really works. I'm going to tell you this story, and then I'm going to leave you with this. I used to, I want to protect the company here, work at a youth reach out center, right, when I was 19 years old. And I did, one of the job assignments I had there was a homework help class. And I dealt with the elementary kids, and another gentleman dealt with the older kids, but it was more of a math class. So I dealt with the younger kids. So after school, they come to this youth program, and I would help them all with their homework. There were 3 siblings that were all foster kids of a very elderly woman who was not related to them, and they were different races. And these kids were always kind of drugged up. They gave them every acronym you can give them. They're ADD, ADHD, they got this and this and that. And they gave them a lot of medications and said that they were incapable of thinking. And they had them in school, but they were just passing them along because they said that they'll never be able to get it, and that they would have to be on these medications the rest of their life. They just pretty much said that these kids were going to be a nobody and have hardships, and just kind of threw them away. Well, I love these kids. These kids was great, and they loved me too. And there was, I have maybe 15 kids in my class on an average day, because, it could change and fluctuate. It could be more or less. And one of the things I quickly did was I started putting the chairs, the tables. I didn't want it in rows. I didn't want them desks everywhere. I wanted tables. And so I got the rectangle tables so that we can all sit with each other. I wanted us facing each other, seeing each other, next to each other. And I would always walk around the table, look at everybody's stuff, help everybody with what they needed help with. Some things that I learned in that is number one, touch goes a long way. Just when you look at them, just put your hand on their shoulder, things like that. That means a lot to a lot of kids because they don't get that kind of attention anymore. And then encouragement. Wow, great job. You're doing good. You got better. I can't believe you got that. I thought that one was going to get you. I thought it was going to stump you, but you are a genius. You got it on the first time. Whoa. That really makes the kids really want to come out of themselves and do more. And it actually helps them to do better than they were doing because they're getting something they're not getting on a regular basis: time, attention, and support, right? But these three, what I noticed is that they were always drifting off. They weren't really paying attention. You couldn't get them to focus. So what I would do is I would sit in the middle. I have all these rows, tables put together, and I sit in the middle. I put one on each side of me and one across from me. And while they were doing their work, as long as I would put my arm around one, reach over and touch one, and say good job, even if I wasn't looking at what they were doing or paying attention, but because I spoke something positive, they would focus in and they were really trying to do their work and get good grades on it. And I would still walk around the room, look at everybody else, talk to everybody else, but I would put them next to me, and it made a huge difference. I also gave them, when they were doing their math, I gave them, just like I told you guys, I gave them beans, I gave them pixie sticks, I gave them noodles, we used crayons, we used a lot rocks, we used a lot of different things. Every day I tried to mix it up what I gave them to use to do their math with. And I taught them how to count using those. Whatever math level that they were at, I taught them how to count using those. Well, those kids began to get straight A's, and they were getting hundreds on everything. And they reported me. The foster mother, the old woman, she called the company I worked for, who brought it down to my supervisor, and they called me into a room and said that I was doing their homework for them. I told them, I said, no, I'm not doing their homework for them. I said, everybody's telling you, always tell them they're stupid and that they can't focus. I told them what I did. I sit them across from me. As long as I put an arm around them every now and again, tell them that they're doing good, they're focused and they want to please and they want to get it right. And I taught them how to do the math. I said, they're capable of learning. They know how to do the math on their own. I'm not doing it for them. I gave them the sticks. I showed them how to do it. They understood it. And now they can do the math. I said, I'm not doing the homework for them. I said, you can ask any of the kids in my class and you can come and sit in and see that they're able to do their homework. So anyway, I ended up getting in a lot of trouble. They never came in to check to see. They never asked anybody. They just said those kids were dumb and they would never ever be able to learn. I eventually moved. I don't know how the kids are doing. I hope they kept continuing on. Or maybe once I was gone, they saw that they were still getting hundreds on everything. But they really did learn, and they learned how to do math by using those little props. Even with all the medication they were on, even with all the negativity that they had, that's what they learned. So I'm sharing with you what I've learned. That stuck with me all my life. And so all children that I've ever helped, I've always used that. And with all five of my children, I have always used those techniques. So hope something in there was helpful for you. Remember, do your homeschool the way that you do homeschool. You ain't got to do it like nobody else. And I hope you have a good homeschooling journey. Bye.